Here's Leon Lett. Dick?
Thank you, Robin. Nobody asked Leon Lett, when did you stop beating your wife? But the questions weren't much gentler than Leon faced this week. As Tom Jackson reports, almost everybody wanted to talk about the two most embarrassing moments in Lett's life. Everybody except Leon.
There's people.
8:38 a.m. Media Day is only 8 minutes old, and Leon Lett is already sweating.
Have you ever resented Baby for making that play? That put you in such a bad light? You know, he speaks so kindly of you, I swear. How you speak to him?
No, I don't even want to talk about it.
8:39 a.m. 9 minutes into Media Day, and Leon Lett decides he's had enough.
Leon Lett, I don't know whether you know this, he just left Media Day.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Everybody needs to give the guy a break.
If he don't want to speak, don't force him to speak. He don't have nothing to say.
Man, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes. If he ever just come out and talk about it, man, I know the media will finally let it go, you know, and I feel for him. But I'm going to hammer him again today. Say, Leon, come out and talk to the media, man.
Do you sympathize? With his situation?
Oh, definitely, because he could probably be in the Pro Bowl, and here he is coming here, and he's going to be filled with all these questions about that play and not about his talents. And to me, that's a shame.
8:59 a.m., 29 minutes into Media Day, and Leon Lett, after some coaxing by league officials, returns.
Yeah, he's looking forward to this opportunity. It's just kind of a chance to atone.
Why did you come back out?
Were you kind of dreading this day as, this Media Day as a kind of Super Bowl week approach?
No, I didn't think it would be this bad. How much longer?
Have you always had such an inward personality? Most defensive linemen are kind of boisterous. It didn't affect it at all. Not the first day back, not the second day back.
When it happened, I felt that, well, because it happened, we wouldn't be here. And now that we're here, I'm in awe of all these people still talking about that. I would think they would talk more about, the game Sunday.
Well, you said if you see a fumble, you're going to pick it up and run. That's my job.
How do you eventually get rid of that?
I've pretty much gotten rid of it, Tom. I'm coming out here, it's all coming back to me very clearly.
9:20 a.m., 50 minutes after Media Day starts and 10 minutes before the rest of the Cowboys are scheduled to finish, Media Day ends for Leon Lett.
If Leon sacks Kelly, forces a fumble, recovers the ball, and carries it all the way to the end zone today, I suspect he'll be willing to talk about that. Robin?
He's really a good-natured guy for taking that. We'll check back with you later in the morning, Dick. Thanks a lot. As we continue this Sunday Sports Day, we'll move from football's best to one of the NBA's high flyers. Our Sunday conversation with Scottie Pippen.
Against San Francisco, Jimmy Johnson got them too high. They're coming into this thing very overconfident. I think they're going to come out a little flat against Buffalo. They do not take Buffalo very seriously. They've been in topless bars all week. I'll tell you what, the Buffalo Bills are going to steal this game 17-16 today. You watch.
All right, let me ask you something. What happens in the first quarter today when the Bills get hit and something goes wrong? And all the memories
they
of the
have to play a perfect game.
Well, they're not going to play a perfect game against the Dallas Cowboys. Skip, who's got the best coach? Who's got the best quarterback? Who's got the best running back?
You're getting blinded by all that mystique.
Well, it's one of those mystique things in sports. I try to look at who has the better players.
Let's talk about who's going to be the best player on the field today. Jim Kelly. He's been on an in-control role through the playoffs. 64 passing attempts without an interception. He's healthy this year. He's going to guide that offense to do something to beat Dallas at its own game of ball control. You watch him control the football in the game today.
Skip, you're putting too much emphasis on Jimmy's prediction about the 49ers. They've already beaten a better team than the Bills last week.
He is insufferably arrogant, and it's rubbing off on his team, which is totally overconfident going into this game.
That arrogant stuff always hurt Al Lee,
Don't forget,
too.
Troy Aikman had a serious head injury last week, and one little shot, one routine shot, and he's going to be woozy today. Charles Haley is hurt, too.
If you're right, can you go home to Dallas?
Yes, I can. I'm just being objective.
And, Mike, if you're right, you're going to make that trip that you planned to Buffalo next week?
I'll be in a shopping mall there on Monday morning.
I believe that. Mitch Albom will cast a tie-breaking vote on the Sports Reporters coming up on the hour. He'll join Skip and Michael live from Atlanta to talk Bills and boys, Kerrigan and Harding.
Kerrigan and Harding?
Kerrigan and Harding. Robin, back to you.
Oh, Lupica does Buffalo. Can't wait for that. The big news out of Atlanta on Saturday was who will be enshrined in Canton, Ohio this summer. The Pro Football
was at the Georgia Dome.
Thanks very much, Dick. All's quiet at the Dome so far, except for the grounds crew putting the finishing touches on the turf. Speaking of finishing touches, the Bills head into their final team meeting in about 15 minutes. Marv Levy has been very businesslike this week, although he's made some subtle changes in terms of preparing his team. He kept the Bills at the same hotel, unlike the previous 3 years and unlike the Cowboys, who moved to an undisclosed location last night. As for Dallas, yes, defensive end Charles Haley is expected to start, but the team is taking a wait-and-see position as to how his back feels when he wakes up this morning. And finally, the Georgia State flag is flying outside the Dome at both ends of the stadium. This has been a very touchy subject all week, since African Americans find this flag extremely offensive to them. I'll have more on this controversy and a planned protest when I join up with Boomer and the gang later in game day. Dick, back to you.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm with Craig James. And Craig, it's almost 8 hours till the kickoff in the Super Bowl, and it's 8 years since you played in the Super Bowl with the New England Patriots. What do you do on the day of the game? What do you, I mean, you got so much time to fill.
One thing you want to do for sure, Dick, is you want to have a chance to sleep as late as possible before you wake up to go down for your pregame meal. Then you get down, have your meal, you get into your pregame routines, go over to the stadium around 3:30. But the one thing the Cowboys and Bills have going for them, this isn't a very anxious day for them, is that both teams have played night games this season. They both played in a World Championship game, so they all know what to expect. So hopefully that will help them to stay a little bit relaxed.
You do have meetings during the day?
Well, what you do is you really want to try to stay away from all those coaches. They're coaches on everybody's staff where they get nervous, they want to come back and talk to you one more time. Usually you have all your preparation in plans and ready to go so that you don't have to talk on game day about a coach's plans.
What do the guys watch on television? They stay away from Meet the Press, I presume, because they're probably talking about the Super Bowl.
Some of these guys, they watch things that they shouldn't be watching, that's for sure. But other guys just get up. Some of them like to watch cartoons. Some of them like to watch good movies. It's one of those that you do anything you can to keep the game off your mind, because when it does get time to walk on the field, there's a lot of tension.
Well, I remember Super Bowl I the night before. My friend Max McGee of the Green Bay Packers snuck out of his room after curfew and returned the next morning just as Bart Starr was going to church. Could that happen today?
Not a chance. You and I'd find them walking around here. They'd be the next day, the headlines of the newspapers and all the media potential. So, I mean, there's no way that could happen anymore.
Okay, I'm glad they got their sleep last night. Craig, thanks very much. Right, and back to Robin.
All right, Dick, we'll see you live on the Sports Reporters in just a few minutes. The Chicago Bulls are proving there is life after
Scott Norwood had not failed on his field goal attempt with 4 seconds to go 3 years ago. The Buffalo Bills would not have suffered through their third straight Super Bowl defeat last January. If the Bills had not turned the ball over to the Dallas Cowboys 9 times a year ago, and if the Cowboys had not knocked Jim Kelly out of that game early, then the Buffalo Bills might not still be praying for their first Super Bowl victory. Is it redemption today, or is it once again rejection?
The Sports Reporters with Dick Chapman.
Good morning again. I'm Dick Chapman. Welcome to the latest edition of the Sports Reporters, live from Super Bowl headquarters at the Hyatt Regency in Atlanta. Today we'll be discussing Super Bowl XXVIII and more with Mitch Albom of the Detroit Free Press, whose Lions got to the first round of the playoffs. Mike Lupica of the New York Daily News, whose Giants got to the second round of the playoffs. And Skip Bayless, author of The Boys, whose boys are playing today for their second Super Bowl championship in a row. Gentlemen, if Buffalo were to win today, if the Bills were to surprise the boys, how big an upset would it be, Mitch?
I don't think it would be that huge an upset. I think if you read the predictions, a lot of people are picking Buffalo now to win. A huge upset is when nobody gives them a chance, and you can see logically why they can't. The only thing going against Buffalo really is their history.
How big would you consider it, Mike?
Because of the baggage, because of the opponent, and because of everything that has happened the last 2 years, I would make this an upset like after Namath's Jets beating the Colts.
Skip.
I think that is ridiculous. I just have way too much respect for the Bills, the way they're shaping up, the way they entered this game, the way Jim Kelly is healthy for this game and on an in-control role in the playoffs. I think this is a pretty tight football game. In fact, I think Buffalo's going to win this football game.
You know, I understand, Skip, that it's become sort of sports correct, that everybody's trying to cover themselves now and pick the Buffalo Bills. This would be an upset. This team lost 52-17 to the Cowboys last year.
But that was last year, Michael. That was last year.
Excuse me for using a Super Bowl frame of reference with the same two teams.
Well, if you always won on last year, you'd always be able to make cases like that. This is this year. And the only thing that makes this a big upset, the word is wrong. It would be a huge victory because Buffalo hasn't been able to do it and they can overcome this baggage. But they are an excellent football team, and I'm picking the Cowboys to win, so I'm not politically correct.
And one other quick thing, that game last year was almost 14-14 after Jim Kelly was out of that game.
In a certain sense, isn't the pressure greater on Buffalo because they have to win to validate their
I disagree with that. I think Buffalo's coming in here without much pressure on them this year. Last year was the pressure game because they'd been blown out by Washington the year before. Then they get blown out again. I think it's an achievement. It shows a great depth of character in this football team that it got back here 4 straight times.
The big lie of this week is that from Kelly on down is that there's no pressure on this team. The stakes today for the Buffalo Bills are these. They are going to be remembered as the gallant champion who got up off the canvas 3 times after getting rocked and finally won the heavyweight champion, or they're going to become the synonym for all teams forever who don't win the big game.
That's ridiculous, though, to get here 4 straight times beating 4 different AFC teams. It's so hard to get back up after winners.
That is how history is going to remember them, and history is not a fair judge, but history, the same way they remember the Minnesota Vikings as a team that never could win the Super Bowl, they'll remember the Buffalo Bills if they lose. But, you know, all this talk about pressure, we talk about it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It doesn't make a difference during the course of the week. It has to do when you get out on the field. Do you feel pressure there? And you have made this point before. If you make a mistake early, things come tumbling down in the Super Bowl. If you get a break quickly, things go your way in the Super Bowl. And that's all where the pressure stuff matters.
The most ridiculous thing you will hear in a newspaper, reading a newspaper column, here on television is, well, the Bills looked really loose this week. How the hell does anybody in the media make this assessment? They go into a room and there's guys sitting around at a table and they go over and talk to Darryl Talley and they say, yeah, he's a little looser than he was last year, but not quite as loose as he was. God almighty.
What I love is that on Sunday, nobody should be loose. If they were loose, they wouldn't be able to play on Sunday.
Right. Yeah, I think everybody's nervous.
And by the way, I think the Dallas Cowboys, and again, I'm from Dallas, and I hope I'm wrong about this for the city of Dallas' sake, but I don't like the way they're preparing for this game. I think they're way too loose. I think Jimmy Johnson has become insufferably arrogant to the point of overconfidence. I think they played their Super Bowl last week in San Francisco, and they don't take Buffalo nearly seriously enough
Mitch,
today.
if the Dallas Cowboys win today, do we have an instant dynasty?
No. First of all, it's an oxymoron to have an instant dynasty.
I know that.
You can't do that. I think back-to-back is very impressive in any Super Bowl situation, but free agency being what it is, the offensive line having some of their problems, I'm not sure this thing's going to hold up. I do know they've got Aikman, Smith, Irvin signed to long-term contracts, and maybe Jimmy Johnson, depending on how Jerry Jones interprets his contract for a long-term. That nucleus right there is better than anybody else in the NFC.
Jerry Rice says it's the best team he's ever seen. You agree?
No, I think the best team I ever saw was either the Steelers of the 70s or the San Francisco 49ers that Rice played on a couple of years ago.
He's just being humble.
No, I don't think he was. I think it was just an interesting thing that might have popped into his head, and he said it. I just think that the Cowboys are an interesting team because if they do win the game today, I think there will certainly be speculation that they could be the team to three-peat. How surprised would you be if we're sitting here 2 years from now and they're going for 4? Not terribly surprised.
Let's go a little bit easier on this dynasty talk with the Dallas Cowboys. Aren't we plugging back into that old Cowboy mystique that I think you finally despised after a while? It's easy to overhype the Dallas Cowboys because all the glitter and the glitz and the uniforms, they look larger than life.
Skip. I don't think there's any connection between those old Cowboys, and this is a totally new operation with this fascinating relationship between the coach and the owner. I don't see how you can compare this organization to Schramm and all those colorless people who ran it in the old days.